What if the house you inherited came with a secret worth millions? But holding on to it could cost you your life. This is the story of Emily, a single mom in Florida, who discovered hidden diamonds in her aunt's old house, and how that treasure nearly destroyed everything she loved. Welcome to Voice of Granny. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment where you watching from. Have you ever had life beat you down so badly that even the smallest spark of hope feels like a miracle? That was Emily Parker's life. A young single mother living in St. Lucia, Florida. She was the kind of woman people whispered about but rarely helped. She worked 3 jobs just to keep the lights on, and most nights she went to bed wondering if tomorrow might finally break her. Emily had one true reason to keep fighting: her 7-year-old son, Noah. He had bright eyes, a smile that melted every storm inside her, and a way of asking questions that made the world seem less cruel. But raising him alone in a cramped apartment with peeling walls and a leaky ceiling was harder than anyone around her cared to understand. That's why, when a letter arrived one Tuesday morning, Emily almost didn't open it. Her son had just spilled milk all over his school shirt. The car was making that grinding noise again. And the electric company's final warning sat unopened on the counter like a dark shadow waiting to swallow her. But this letter looked different. It came in a cream envelope with heavy lettering across the top: Henderson and Marsh Estate Attorneys. Emily frowned. She didn't know any lawyers. Still, something inside her made her tear it open. Her breath caught as she read. Her Aunt Margaret, a woman she'd only met twice in her entire life, had passed away. And in her will, she had left Emily a house. Not money. Not something useful like a car. House. Out in the Florida Panhandle. Deep in the swampy forests about an hour from Tallahassee. The letter called it the Lockwood House. Built in 1901, sitting on 50 acres of pine woods. No mortgage. No liens. Just Emily's if she claimed it in person within 30 days. For a long while, Emily just stared at the page. A house. She almost laughed. This had to be a mistake. Her family barely remembered her name, let alone left her anything. Aunt Margaret. The woman had always been cold, distant, one of those relatives who sneered at Emily's life choices without ever lifting a finger to help. Why would she leave her a house? Her cousin Lisa answered that question for her when Emily called later that night. Lisa's laugh came sharp and cruel through the phone. That dump. You've got to be kidding me. Mom left you the forest house. Oh, she must have been laughing even in her grave. What do you mean? Emily asked carefully. I mean it's worthless. It's been rotting since the 70s. No electricity, no plumbing, probably full of snakes and God knows what else. Mom always said that house was where the family buried their mistakes. Guess that's why she left it to you. The words burned, though Emily tried not to let them show. She was the family mistake. Pregnant at 19, divorced by 22, scraping by ever since. The relatives who had money looked at her like a stain. The ones who didn't still treated her as if she was worse. But something inside her, something that had always kept her standing when life wanted her crawling, flared up. It's mine, isn't it? Emily said softly. Lisa scoffed. Sure. Go ahead. Waste your time. But don't say I didn't warn you. That place will eat you alive. Emily hung up, her heart pounding. For the rest of the night, she stared at the letter. She thought of her broken-down car, the stack of bills, Noah's worn-out shoes. Everyone had always told her she wasn't worth anything. That her life was a mess. That she was a fool. Maybe this house really was a cruel joke. But it was hers. And even a cruel joke was better than nothing at all. 3 days later, Emily found herself driving down a forgotten dirt road, Noah's small hand resting on her arm. The GPS had stopped working miles back, so she followed the directions scribbled on yellow paper by the lawyer's assistant. Turn left at the Crooked Oak. Follow the creek until you see the rusted gate. And there it was. A heavy iron gate sagging on broken hinges. The words Lockwood Estate etched in metal so faded it looked like a ghost of itself. Noah pressed his face to the window, his eyes wide. Mom, it looks like a storybook. Emily didn't answer. The forest seemed to close in on all sides as the dirt road stretched into shadows. Spanish moss hung heavy from the trees, swaying like whispers. The air smelled of damp earth, and every instinct told her to turn back. But she drove on. And then they saw it. The house rose out of the forest like a forgotten monument. 3 stories tall, its wood siding gray and weathered, the porch sagging under years of neglect. The windows stared out like hollow eyes. Vines curled up its walls as if the earth itself was trying to reclaim it. Noah grabbed her hand when they stepped out of the car. "Do we have to go inside?" he whispered. Emily stared at the house. This inheritance, this so-called gift. Everyone had been right. It was worthless. Mocking her even in death. But it was hers. "Not today," she said softly, squeezing Noah's hand. "We'll come back. We'll make it better." Because even cruel jokes could be transformed. Even worthless things could be made new. She'd been proving that her whole life. The next morning, Emily left Noah with her neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, a sweet widow who had always watched him when Emily worked late shifts. Then she returned to the Lockwood house alone. This time she brought tools. A crowbar, gloves, a dust mask, and a flashlight. If nothing else, maybe she could find something worth salvaging. The front door groaned like a wounded animal when she pushed it open. The air inside was thick with dust, the kind that clings to your lungs. But beneath the decay, Emily saw hints of grandeur. Ornate woodwork, high ceilings, a chandelier hanging dangerously crooked. Room by room she explored. The furniture was draped in sheets, the wallpaper peeling. The kitchen hadn't been touched since the 1950s. Upstairs bedrooms still held clothes in closets, photographs on dressers, as if people had walked out one day and never returned. And then, in a small yellow-painted room that must have once belonged to a child, she found it. A journal. The handwriting inside was neat and careful. "Daddy says the special room is our secret. He says someday when I'm older, I'll understand why we keep it locked." Emily's heart skipped. A secret room. She'd been through the whole house. The basement. She hurried back downstairs, her flashlight beam trembling. Sure enough, beside the kitchen, she saw a narrow door, painted so many times it had blended into the wall. No handle. Just a keyhole buried under layers of paint. Her crowbar bit into the frame. For nearly an hour, she pried and pulled until the wood cracked apart with a scream. The door swung open, revealing a steep staircase swallowed in blackness. The air that rushed up smelled not of mold, but of stone, of minerals, of something ancient waiting. Emily's breath shook as she descended. The basement wasn't like the rest of the house. The walls were stone, smooth and dry. The floor was poured concrete. It felt less like a cellar and more like a vault. And at the far end stood another door. Metal. With a combination lock. Modern. Out of place. Her flashlight caught something scratched into the metal. Numbers. 12 to 17, 1955. Date. Emily flipped through the journal. And there it was. December 17th, 1955. Mama's birthday. Daddy says it's the most important day to remember. Her fingers trembled as she turned the lock. Blick, blick, blick. The door opened. And what Emily saw made her knees nearly buckle. Rows of shelves. Velvet pouches. Glass jars. Wooden boxes. She reached for the nearest pouch, untied it, and gasped as diamonds spilled into her palm, catching the flashlight's glow and scattering it into 1,000 stars. Jar after jar, box after box. Uncut diamonds. Hundreds. Thousands. Enough to change everything. In the center of the room sat a desk. On it, a leather-bound ledger. And a manila envelope. Her name was written on the front. Not to whom it may concern. Not family. Emily Parker. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a letter, written in her Aunt Margaret's handwriting. "Emily, if you're reading this, then you were strong enough to claim what others dismissed. Brave enough to face what they mocked. And wise enough to see beyond what's worthless. This basement holds our family's secret. Diamonds hidden for generations. Wealth that corrupted everyone it touched. I chose you because you've lived with nothing and still given your son everything. I trust you not to let this destroy you. There is more here than you realize. More than $15 million worth. But the real gift is not the stones. It is the chance to prove that love is stronger than greed. Use it well. Do not become like us. Margaret. Emily sank to the cold concrete floor, the letter trembling in her hands. Above her, millions in diamonds gleamed like captured stars. And for the first time in years she cried. Not from despair, but from the unbearable weight of hope. The night after Emily found the note, sleep was impossible. She lay awake listening to the hum of her old fridge and the distant sound of cars on the highway. Every shadow in her small apartment felt like it was holding a pair of eyes. Her son, Noah, slept soundly in the next room, hugging his stuffed bear, unaware of the storm brewing around them. Emily envied that. She wished she could crawl into his dreams where monsters were simple and could be chased away with a nightlight. But this monster was real. Someone knew her secret. The next morning, she met Daniel at the Lockwood house again. She handed him the note with trembling fingers. He read it twice, his brow furrowed in silence. "Em," he said finally, "this isn't a prank. Whoever left this, they want you scared. Maybe they're planning something worse." Emily's chest tightened. "But how? I didn't tell anyone. I didn't even take anything out of the basement, except the ledger and Aunt Margaret's letter. It's all still there." Daniel glanced around the empty, dusty living room as though someone might be hiding in the corners. Secrets don't stay hidden forever. Maybe your aunt wasn't as careful as she thought. Maybe someone else has been watching this place longer than you think. The idea sent a shiver down Emily's spine. "What do I do?" she whispered. Daniel met her eyes. "First, we protect you and Noah. I'll install cameras around the property. And from now on, you don't come here alone. Ever." For a while that plan worked. Daniel brought over equipment, installed motion detectors, and even rigged up floodlights that would flare on if anyone approached the house at night. Emily tried to convince herself they were safe. She cleaned upstairs bedrooms, washed old curtains, and even brought a few toys for Noah to play with when he visited the property. Slowly, she began to see the Lockwood house not as a burden but as a dream rising from the dust. But peace never lasts long when greed is circling. One afternoon, as Emily was sweeping broken glass from a hallway, she heard a car crunching up the gravel driveway. Her heart skipped. Daniel hadn't said he was coming. Through the cracked blinds, she saw a familiar face. Her cousin Lisa. Emily's stomach dropped. Lisa stepped out of a shiny black SUV. Her sunglasses perched on her nose, her smile sharp as a blade. "Well, well, look at you," Lisa said, her voice sugary and cruel. "Playing house in Aunt Margaret's little horror mansion." Emily crossed her arms. "What are you doing here?" "I heard you actually came back to claim the place," Lisa said, walking up the porch steps like she owned them. "Figured I'd see it with my own eyes." "Honestly, Em, I didn't think you had the guts." Emily bristled. "You don't belong here." Lisa smirked. "Oh, come on. We're family. And let's not pretend this dump is worth anything. Unless," her voice lowered, her smile twisting, "unless you found something." Emily's heart pounded. "What are you talking about?" "Oh, please," Lisa scoffed. "You think I don't know? Mom used to talk about the family fortune. All the time when she had too much wine. Hidden diamonds, secret money, blah blah. We all thought it was just one of her stories. But then I heard you've been sneaking around here with your little contractor boyfriend." She leaned closer, her eyes glinting. "So tell me, Em, what did you find?" Emily forced herself to stay calm. "Nothing but dust and broken boards. That's all this place has ever been." Lisa studied her face, searching for cracks. Then she chuckled darkly. "You were always a terrible liar. Don't forget I know you. You've never had luck in your life. And suddenly you're walking around with hope in your eyes. Something's up." Emily's throat tightened. "You need to leave." Lisa's smile widened. Fine. But I'll be back. Secrets don't stay secrets forever. She turned and strutted back to her car, her perfume lingering like poison in the air. Emily stood frozen on the porch long after the SUV disappeared, her hands shaking. Someone else knew. Maybe Lisa didn't know everything yet, but it was only a matter of time. That night, Emily called Daniel in a panic. He came over, sitting with her at the small kitchen table while Noah slept in the other room. She knows, Emily whispered. Lisa knows something. I could see it in her eyes. And if she digs too deep, Daniel cut her off. Then we stay ahead of her. Don't let her rattle you. You're stronger than she is. But Emily wasn't sure. Lisa was ruthless. She'd tear the world apart for a piece of that fortune. And if she ever found the vault, Emily didn't even want to imagine what would happen. 2 days later, the cameras Daniel had installed at the Lockwood house finally caught something. Emily was at work when her phone buzzed with an alert. Her heart nearly stopped as she pulled up the feed. There, in the middle of the night, a shadowy figure moved across the porch. A man, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a hood. He tried the door. He tugged at the lock. When it didn't budge, he circled the house, testing windows, peering inside. Emily's stomach turned to ice. The man finally disappeared into the woods, but the damage was done. Someone wasn't just watching anymore. They were hunting. The next day, Emily showed the footage to Daniel. His face darkened. This isn't just Lisa. This is someone else. Maybe someone she talked to. Maybe someone who's been watching this place for years. Either way, this is dangerous. We need to move the diamonds. Tonight. Emily's pulse quickened. Move them where? Anywhere I take them, I'll be followed. Daniel looked her dead in the eyes. Then we make it look like they're gone. We trick them. She hesitated. The diamonds weren't just money. They were a promise. Second chance. But keeping them here was like leaving blood in the water. The sharks were already circling. Finally she nodded. All right. Tonight. That evening, under the cover of darkness, Emily and Daniel descended into the basement together. Emily's flashlight beam cut across the shelves, the glass jars and velvet bags glowing like stars in the shadows. Her breath trembled. So much wealth. So much danger. She gathered as much as she could into a duffel bag, her hands shaking with every diamond she touched. Daniel helped, his movements steady, focused. When they finally zipped the bag shut, Emily looked around the vault one last time. We're not just moving money, she whispered. We're moving the weight of every choice my family ever made. Daniel rested a hand on her shoulder. Then let's make sure we make the right one. As they climbed the stairs, the old house groaned around them. The air felt heavier than usual, as if the walls themselves were listening. And just as Emily reached for the basement door, she froze. The stairs, low, deliberate. Someone was already in the house. The sound of footsteps above her head made Emily's heart pound so loudly she thought it might give them away. She froze halfway up the basement stairs, her hand still gripping the duffel bag filled with diamonds. Daniel raised a finger to his lips, urging silence. The two of them listened. The floorboards creaked again. Slow, heavy steps moving across the main hallway. Whoever it was. They weren't in any hurry. They were searching. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Every instinct told her to run, but there was nowhere to go. The only way out was through the very floor that stranger was walking on. Daniel leaned close, whispering so low she could barely hear. Stay here. Keep quiet. I'll handle this. Her eyes widened. No, don't. But he was already climbing the stairs, moving with a careful steadiness that didn't match the fear crashing through Emily's chest. The basement door creaked open, and Daniel slipped into the darkness above. Emily stayed crouched at the bottom step, clutching the duffel bag, every muscle trembling. The silence stretched. Then came a voice. A man's voice. I know you're down there. Emily's blood turned to ice. The voice was low, raspy, full of certainty. You think you can hide from me, little Parker? That house, that fortune, it was never yours. Hand it over, and maybe you'll walk out of here alive. Emily's lungs burned. How did he know her name? Who was he? Then Daniel's voice rang out, firm and steady. You need to leave. Right now. Oz. Then laughter. Cold, humorless laughter. Oh, I see. The knight in shining armor. Trust me, boy, you don't want to get in the middle of this. That girl's family owes debts you can't even imagine. Emily's mind spun. Debts? What was he talking about? Daniel didn't flinch. Last warning. Leave. The floor above groaned, a scuffle of movement. Then a crash. The sound of wood breaking, something heavy falling. Emily shot to her feet, her heart in her throat. Daniel! She cried before she could stop herself. The laughter came again, sharper now. There she is. The basement light flickered, and Emily's world seemed to close in. She grabbed the duffel bag and backed into the shadows, her hands shaking so hard the strap nearly slipped from her grip. Then she heard Daniel shout, followed by the sound of fists striking, bodies slamming against the walls. The house shook with the violence above. Emily couldn't just hide. Not with Daniel fighting for her. Not with Noah's future hanging in the balance. She searched the basement desperately, her flashlight beam bouncing across shelves until it landed on an old iron pipe lying in the corner. Rusted but solid. Her hand closed around it. When Emily burst into the hallway above, the scene made her chest seize. Daniel was pinned against the wall by a man twice his size. The stranger wore a black hood pulled low, his fists like hammers, his eyes cold as stone. Daniel's lip was bleeding, but he still pushed back, gritting his teeth. The hooded man's gaze snapped toward Emily the second she stepped out of the basement. His mouth curled into a cruel grin. There she is. The Parker girl. Emily tightened her grip on the pipe. Who are you? She demanded, her voice trembling but loud enough to echo through the house. Doesn't matter, the man growled. What matters is you've got something that belongs to us. Hand it over. Emily's throat felt like it was closing, but she forced the words out. This house was left to me. My aunt wanted me to have it. You don't belong here. The man sneered. Your aunt was a fool. She thought she could keep it hidden, but we've been watching this family for decades. And now it's mine. Give me the bag. His eyes dropped to the duffel clutched in her hand. Emily's stomach twisted. He knew. Daniel seized the moment, shoving the man hard and breaking free. Run, Emily. But Emily didn't run. She lifted the pipe with both hands, her fear twisting into something sharper, fury. For years she'd been dismissed, beaten down by life, mocked by her family. She'd been told she was worthless, powerless, a mistake. Not anymore. With a cry that ripped from the bottom of her lungs, Emily swung the pipe. It connected with the intruder's shoulder, the clang echoing through the old house. He roared in pain, stumbling back. Daniel lunged forward, landing a punch square to the man's jaw. The fight exploded, violent and desperate, every crash of furniture and shatter of glass ringing through the house like thunder. Emily swung again, the pipe colliding with the man's leg, sending him crashing into the corner. For a moment, the stranger stayed down, breathing hard, his hood slipping back just enough for Emily to see his face. A scar ran from his temple down to his jaw. His eyes were a pale, unnatural gray. And in that moment, something clicked in Emily's mind. She had seen that face before, buried in one of the photographs upstairs. A man standing beside her grandfather, smiling in a family picture dated 1960. He wasn't just a thief. He was tied to her family's past. Before she could speak, the man pushed himself to his feet, snarling. This isn't over. He staggered toward the door, limping but still full of menace. You think you can keep it from me? I'll be back. And next time I won't be alone. With that, he disappeared into the night, the door slamming shut behind him. The silence that followed was deafening. Emily dropped the pipe, her hands still shaking. Daniel leaned against the wall, wiping blood from his mouth, his chest heaving. "Are you all right?" she whispered, rushing to his side. He gave a weak laugh. "I've been better." Emily's knees buckled, and she sank onto the floor. The duffel bag of diamonds sat heavy beside her, but for the first time, she didn't feel like she was holding treasure. She felt like she was holding a curse. That night, Emily couldn't escape her aunt's words. "Do not become like us. Use it well. Do not let this destroy you." Someone already knew. Someone from her family's past, someone dangerous. And he had promised to return. Emily realized then that this inheritance wasn't just hers to claim. It was a responsibility, burden, test. And if she wasn't careful, it could cost her everything, including Noah. The morning after the intruder stormed the Lockwood house, Emily woke with a heaviness in her chest she couldn't shake. The sunlight streaming through her blinds felt thinner, weaker, as if even the day itself knew the darkness pressing down on her. Noah sat at the small table eating cereal, humming softly to himself, swinging his legs. For a moment Emily just watched him. His innocence, his smile, the way he still believed the world was kind. That was what she was fighting for. That was what the diamonds meant. Not greed, not wealth, not revenge. Oh, a new beginning. But she also knew hope came with a cost. And last night had proven that people would do anything to get what she had found. Daniel showed up later with coffee. His lips split and bruised, but his eyes still steady. "We don't have much time," he said simply. That man wasn't bluffing. "He'll be back, and he won't come alone." Emily nodded. She already knew. Fear gnawed at her, but deep inside, something else had taken root. Resolve. "I have to protect Noah," she whispered. "No matter what." Daniel leaned forward. "Then we make our stand." That evening, they returned to the Lockwood house one last time. Emily carried the duffel bag of diamonds, but her decision was already made. She couldn't keep them. Not like this. Not when they painted a target on her back and her son's future. Her aunt's words haunted her. "Do not let this destroy you." She knew now what Margaret meant. The diamonds were poison if clutched too tightly. The only way to save herself was to let them go. Daniel helped her drag heavy boards and furniture, setting up makeshift barricades. He installed the last of the cameras, tested the locks, checked every window twice. When night finally fell, Emily stood in the center of the old house, the bag of diamonds at her feet, her heart steady for the first time in weeks. "This ends tonight," she said softly. They didn't have to wait long. Around midnight the sound came. Engines rumbling, tires crunching on gravel. Emily peered out through a crack in the curtains and counted 3 trucks pulling up the long drive. Men climbed out, their faces hidden, their movements confident. And at the front of them was the scarred man, the intruder from before. He looked up at the house with a cold smile, his voice carrying through the night. "Emily Parker. Hand it over, and nobody gets hurt." Emily's pulse raced, but she didn't move. She glanced at Daniel, who gave a firm nod. The men approached, heavy boots pounding up the porch steps. The first slam of a shoulder hit the door, rattling the wood. Another. The hinges groaned. Emily whispered to herself, "Be strong. For Noah. Be strong." The door crashed open. The intruders stormed inside, flashlights slicing through the darkness. The scarred man's eyes locked onto Emily instantly. "There she is," he sneered. "Didn't I tell you? You can't keep it from me." Emily bent, grabbed the duffel bag and held it up. "You want this. Fine. But you'll never use it to destroy me. Not anymore." Before anyone could move, she hurled the bag into the roaring fireplace Daniel had lit minutes earlier. The canvas burst into flames. The diamonds spilled, glowing for a heartbeat like stars before fire swallowed them whole. The men roared in fury, rushing forward, but Daniel stepped between them and Emily, swinging the same iron pipe she had used before. Chaos erupted. The men lunged, fists flying, furniture splintering. Emily fought too, grabbing a broken chair leg and swinging with every ounce of strength left in her body. The house echoed with violence, with fire crackling, with shouts of rage and desperation. One of the men lunged for the fireplace, trying to snatch diamonds from the flames, but the fire ate faster than greed could grab. Sparks erupted, smoke billowed, and the treasure turned to ash. The scarred man bellowed in rage, his pale eyes wild. He charged at Emily, his hands like claws. But this time she didn't back down. She lifted the chair leg high and swung, striking him across the face. He staggered, blood streaking down his scar, and stumbled backward into the smoke. Daniel shoved another man through a broken window, the glass shattering as he crashed onto the porch outside. The others, coughing and choking on smoke, fled into the night. When the scarred man realized the diamonds were gone, burned, destroyed forever, his scream shook the walls. He stumbled after his men, retreating into the darkness with fury burning in his eyes. "This isn't over," he roared as the trucks peeled away into the woods. "You'll regret this, Parker." But Emily knew it was over. For him, the diamonds were everything. And now they were nothing but ash. By the time the fire died down and the house lay quiet again, Emily collapsed into Daniel's arms, shaking with exhaustion but alive. She looked at the blackened fireplace, the ashes glowing faintly. She thought she would feel grief, regret, loss. Instead she felt free. The diamonds were gone, but so was the curse. Her aunt had been right all along. The real gift wasn't the fortune. It was the chance to choose love over greed, hope over fear. And Emily had chosen. Weeks later, the Lockwood house stood calmer. The broken windows were boarded, the damage patched, the air lighter somehow. Emily still planned to restore it, but not for wealth, for Noah. She imagined him running through the halls, laughing, free of the shadows that had haunted her family for generations. Daniel stayed by her side, helping, steady as always. Their bond grew stronger in the quiet hours of rebuilding, in the simple comfort of knowing they had survived something dark together. One evening, as the sun set over the pines, Emily sat on the porch with Noah curled up in her lap. He looked up at her with sleepy eyes. "Mom," he asked softly, "are we safe now?" Emily kissed his forehead, her heart swelling. "Yes, baby. We're safe." She gazed out at the forest, the golden light spilling across the land, and for the first time in her life she believed it. They were safe. They were free. And though the fortune was gone, they had something greater: hope, family, and the unshakable truth that even the darkest legacies can be broken.